Good morning. Welcome to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship online Zoom service. We are so glad that you have joined us this morning. I'm the Reverend Sara LaWall. It is my great honor to serve this beloved community. Whether you are zooming in from down the street, from across the city, or across the country, you are welcome here. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Whoever you love and however you identify, you are welcome here. Whatever faiths you have known, if any, you are welcome here. I want to take a moment to especially welcome any newcomers among us. It's always fun to know that there are newcomers seeking us out, even in our virtual worship space. If you are able, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat so that we all can welcome you as if we are meeting you for the first time in person walking through our doors. Even virtually, we know it takes a lot of courage to check out a new community, and we are grateful that you chose us this morning. As we gather together each week, even virtually, we want to offer a land acknowledgement. A recognition that the land upon which our church and homes exist is the ancestral land of the Shoshone, Bannock, and Paiute tribes who inhabited a vast region of Idaho. We offer this acknowledgement as a recognition of the longer history of the land, long before colonization. We offer it as a truth-telling for ourselves, and an invitation and calling to dive deeper into the work of justice, of bringing about justice in every way that we can, of listening and learning from the truths spoken to us by Native American people, making space for them to re-inhabit this place and giving back the resources they need to heal their communities. Our social justice plate partner for the month of September is Citizens Climate Lobby, working for effective, sustainable climate change solutions through local grassroots advocacy. We are proud supporters, and many of our members are members of Citizens Climate Lobby here in the Boise chapter, working regularly to advance climate change solutions so that our planet might live on for all of us. I know that we gather this morning, many of us across this country, with heavy hearts as we mourn the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, an American icon and hero. We honor her steadfast and dogged commitments to equality and justice, particularly to the equality and rights of women, and to the very hope of this nation. My favorite memories of Justice Ginsburg is whenever she was asked the question about how many women would be enough women on the Supreme Court, and her answer always was, when there are 9. May we hold out the hope and work toward that vision, her vision in our future. And just the other day, I was listening to an old interview with Justice Ginsburg, where she reflected that she sometimes liked her dissenting opinions the best, even though they weren't the winning ones, because they gave her hope that persuasion could change the tides. We take hope in her dissension, and in honor of her Jewish faith, we say the words, "May her memory be a blessing." In honor of her spirit to fight for the highest good until her dying breath, we recommit ourselves to the fight for our Unitarian Universalist values. And there's so many ways for us to participate in that commitment to those values, particularly in this election season. The simplest way is you can participate in our Boise UU Plan Your Vote mobilization project. We just want to track and mobilize and inspire one another to say, yes, I have a plan, and yes, I will vote, so that we can share that our community is out there in the world voting our values. You can sign up with our UU The Vote organization at uuthevote.org for phone banking across the country, and join together with UUs from across the country this Wednesday for a Get Out the Vote mobilization event. We are blessed to have so many people leading today's worship service. Gwyn Reid serves as our celebrant. Jem Emerson Page, our wonderful storyteller. Carrie Bastion, our music director on piano, and Blake McCallum is our Zoom tech host. And today we are honored to have reflections from members of our climate action team, Eileen Gettings and Dennis and Sharon Rockwood. We thank you all for your contributions. As we reflect together on the monthly spiritual theme for September of renewal, and explore the issues of renewal for our planet. Renewal invites us to engage in our commitments and responsibility again and again to generations who have come before us and those who are yet to be, in all the ways that justice intersects with climate change and vice versa, to imagine and work toward a future that sustains all life, all beings, all love, that brings about the thriving of our whole and holy planet. I invite us all to breathe together. Fill your body with breath. Breathe knowing that you breathe with this beloved community, connected by breath to our earth and to one another. If you are feeling unmoored, overwhelmed by the tidal waves of heartbreak around us, from fires and storms, to an invisible virus, to racial injustice, to the loss of an icon, you are not alone. Let us make room for our tender hearts. Let us ground ourselves in that which holds all, in the love that will not let us go. Let us renew one another. Let us breathe together. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning. Thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-riven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep, to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp where my feet shall tread. Thy way is steep past the peril of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream.
Take your burdens, take them to the water. Take those burdens to a clear mountain stream. Walk right in, lay down and be baptized. Rise up, refreshed, renewed, and redeemed. waters of faith wash your burdens clean. Let faith lift, carry, and connect you to all of the living swimming in the stream. Take your sorrows, take them to the water. Take those sorrows to a cool, glassy lake. Walk right in, lay down and be baptized. Rise up, refreshed, renewed, and awake. Oh, give yourself over to the great flow. Let the waters of hope wash your sorrows clean. Let hope lift, carry, and connect you to all of the living swimming in the stream. Life began in the sea, her waters flow in you and me. Each and every precious drop connects and renews us on this pale blue dot. If driven to your knees by the end of day, just go down to the river and pray. And take your troubles, take them to the water. Take those troubles to a rough rolling sea. Walk right in, lay down and be baptized. Rise up, refreshed, renewed, and at peace. Oh, give yourself over to the great flow. Let the waters of love wash your troubles clean. Let love lift, carry, and connect you to all of the living swimming in the stream. Swimming in the stream. We're swimming in the stream.
Each week, we light a flaming chalice, a symbol of our free faith, a beacon of welcome, of hope, a light of truth and love. We join in this lighting in solidarity and community with hundreds of other Unitarian Universalists lighting chalices today in homes and in virtual worship services, reminding us that we are connected to one another and to a larger community of faith and love. If you have a chalice nearby, you're invited to light it with us, then hold it up to your camera and switch to gallery view to see all the chalices being lit today. Then we invite you to share in the chat. The chalice is lit on Elm Street or whatever street you live on. With our collective chalices lit in all our spaces, we offer you this call to worship from cultural historian, scholar of world's religions, earth history and evolution, and self-described geologian, Thomas Berry.
The world we live in is an honorable world. To refuse this deepest instinct of our being, to deny honor where honor is due, to withdraw reverence from divine manifestation, is to place ourselves on a head-on collision course with the ultimate forces of the universe.
This question must be dealt with before any other question that is before us. We must both the intrinsic nature and the order of magnitude of the issue that we place our response to the present crisis of our planet on any other basis.
It is not ultimately a political or economic or scientific or psychological issue. It is ultimately a question of honor. To honoring the earth, come, let us worship together.
I invite our children to move in a little closer to your screen for our time for all ages this morning. Have you ever wondered at the way that our earth renews itself, going endlessly through cycles of death and rebirth and growth and change? Spring comes with new growth and deeper roots. Spring makes things sturdy and sure. Autumn ripens and gives us time to harvest, and winter brings death and cutting back. We're part of nature, and in some ways our renewal is just like nature's. When we sleep or meditate, when we take long walks in nature, when we grow naturally, which lots of us are always doing, we're always growing, and we learn new things constantly. But there are many ways that slow, cyclical change isn't the change that we need. It can't give us the future and the world that we need. For the climate catastrophe that we face, that we're seeing all around us, we need to do things that are drastic in order to act with honor, to act in alignment with our values. We must find renewal that changes what we do and know completely. Our story this morning will help us think about what it takes to make big changes that are different than anything we've ever done before. There once was a president whose favorite thing in the whole world was peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches, which he called PBB and H for short. Look at that sandwich. It's a delicious sandwich. He had eaten them since boyhood. But back in those days, his parents would make him eat other things too, like broccoli, or Brussels sprouts, or spinach. Ugh. On the day that he became president, he said to his mother, his father, and all of his advisors, "No, I will not eat broccoli. I will not eat spinach. I am the President of the United States of America, and I will eat whatever I please. And I wish to eat peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches." Pretty soon, PBB and H sandwiches were a national craze. It started with the president eating them every single day. And pretty soon it spread to members of Congress who changed the name of the sandwich, which they felt was too long to say, to freedom food, which they thought had a good patriotic ring to it. They instituted freedom foods in government cafeterias across the country, from courtrooms to our military bases, even beyond the country. They're bringing it across the world. Corporations were next. Big businesses were quick to get in on the trend, and they designed a new technology so that people could make PB, and H sandwiches at home in the particular way that the president did. And they made this new technology in bulk, and it broke easily. They decided to hire all sorts of celebrities, from athletes, like footballers, I don't think they're called that, football players, to movie stars and pop singers. Soon, everybody was eating freedom foods, because if you didn't, people might think that you were against America. The president, the politicians, the big bosses, and even celebrities were doing it. So everybody in the United States started doing it. All of the peanut farmers in Georgia started buying expensive cars and building enormous mansions. Can you imagine how many peanuts and how much honeycomb it takes for everybody in the United States to eat some every day? But there was a problem. Honey going to all these people, going into our own kitchens, every day making food. The bees couldn't keep up. The bees were struggling. I'm going to put them on top of here. Goodbye, sports stadium. Those hardworking bees couldn't make enough honey for everybody to eat peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches every day. Look at them here. When they complained, the president just demanded that they work a little harder. Soon, they worked shifts around the clock. They closed all the bee schools so the little bees could go to work in the honey factories. They abolished weekends so that there was no more Saturday morning cartoons or bumblebee soccer leagues. To make more room for honey creation, the bees were forced to exile all those who were too sick or old to work. Still, no matter how hard they tried, no matter what strict new rules Congress laid down, the bees simply could not make enough honey. They couldn't make enough honey for all those sandwiches. One day, a worker bee named Cesar decided enough was enough. He called a meeting of the hive. Here's Cesar. He called a meeting of the hive, hovering up in the air where all the bees could see him. He said, "This is no good, my friends. We cannot go on like this. We're living like automatons, but we are living beings. We are bees, and we deserve better. We deserve to stay together with our families and neighbors, and we deserve to rest. It's time for everyone to stop taking advantage of us, taking us for granted, and to start treating us with the respect we deserve." The bees buzzed very loudly, which is how bees cheer, and they started to put his plan into action. The first thing they did was to stop making honey. Every bee in the hive simply flew off of the assembly line. Other bees flew into the other hives, and soon all the hives stopped working too. Soon no more honey for the corporations, no more honey in your kitchens, no more honey at the White House, no more honey for celebrities, for concession stands at the Lakers game, for the Congress people, for the military bases. The bees simply stopped working. Oop. Courthouses either. Right around this time, the president received a strange postcard in the mail. On one side was a big list of the bees' demands: healthcare, education, better working conditions, the ability to make big decisions about their own hives, and so on. And on the other side was a picture of a peanut butter banana honey sandwich with a great big X through it. Enough. The United States people tried to go on living and eating as they used to, but it was getting harder and harder to find honey, as you can see. Everyone was upset. The president, being rich and powerful though, did have honey for a long while, well after the rest of the US went without. Eventually though, even the giant White House honey pot was empty, and the president was worried. He was not quite ready to give in to the bees' demands. Until one night, the president came home after a really bad day, in which the president of Russia had made fun of his new suit. The premier of Uzbekistan refused to let him use their country as a landfill, and the king of Sardinia called him a creep. Whenever the president had a terrible day like this one, the only thing that made him feel better was a triple dose of freedom food, 3 thick peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches stacked on top of each other. But wait, the honey pot is finally empty. The president raged, he bellowed, he threatened, he held his breath until his face turned purple, but no honey appeared. Finally, he broke down and cried right there in the Oval Office. "Fine," he sobbed, "I give up." He blew his nose into the curtains. "Get that Cesar the bee on the phone right away. Tell him they have won. And they can have their stupid weekends. They can have their dreaded healthcare. And they can have their precious schools. They can even get be in charge of their own hives and take off whole seasons of the year. Let them have whatever they ask, but get me a P, B, B, and H sandwich right now." And so it was that in just a few short hours, photographers crowded and jostled to snap the now famous photograph of the President of the United States of America shaking forearms with Cesar the bee. Cesar smiled at the cameras, knowing that this victory was not just for his bee community, but for the plants and birds and animal communities that his life and his work mattered to. And that is why bees only work during certain seasons, like summer and spring, pollinating certain plants at certain times. This is also why P, B, B, and H are not as popular as they once were with people, as everyone agreed that they should be served only on rare occasions in order to protect the bees and their resources. I wonder What kinds of demands do you think nature would make of our society if it could send a stern postcard with a big red X in it? Who are the people who are fighting to voice these demands for our Earth? What can our lives look like when we live in a way that protects our Earth's resources? What can we live without? Remember, even when you don't feel hope, sometimes this is a really big conversation, there's a lot to do. Even when you don't feel hope, you can feel determined. Just like all the bees got together behind Cesar's call to action. What call to action matters most to you? And what is the smallest thing you can do to work on that call each and every week? Sometimes we get distracted with the really big actions. Let's start thinking about the small things we can do and sustain, because change, cyclical kind that nature gives us, to big drastic change, take continuous effort. All right, I want to invite our children to join me in our children's chapel. The Zoom ID will appear on your screen to that. It is an interactive worship space designed for kids to hang out and process and do their own special worship elements. Adults, I invite you to sing the children to their worship chapel. Thank you.
May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
About a year and a half ago, I attended a presentation here at Booth where they had a Citizens Climate Lobby presenter. She spoke about change, explaining some of the causes, conditions, and what the future may hold if the climate change was kept unchecked. She talked about how disturbing it was and of the anxious feeling she had about it. She decided she could either try to do something about it or continue with feelings of worry and helplessness. She chose to do something about it and became very instrumental in our local Citizens Climate Lobby chapter. I thought about her compelling talk to us, and I could not think of a bigger threat to our future on all levels, personal, family, country, and the world, than climate change. Soon after that, I learned that Booth was continuing with a group interested in environmental issues. I joined and soon became a steering committee member in what is now the Climate Action Team. Like Citizens Climate Lobby, which is this month's plate partner, Climate Action Team is a group that tries to keep a positive outlook. Their mission statement is, quote, to plan and implement activities to educate and motivate Booth members and friends to combat the climate crisis. Work with partners such as Citizens Climate Lobby and others to present solutions, increase awareness, and take action in our community and beyond, close quote. The Climate Action Team introduced me to the book called Drawdown by Paul Hawken, which explains many ways we can minimize climate change threats. Through Climate Action Team's monthly meetings, we have organized educational presentations open to Booth members and beyond, participated in environmental rallies, and offered ideas for conservation and celebrating Earth Month. We have also looked at some of the booth practices that support our efforts at being a green sanctuary. The UU is expanding these requirements to address environmental and social justice, and we will be looking at that as well. I have enjoyed the enthusiasm and positive attitudes of our climate action team. I believe that as an individual, I want to help promote progress toward climate health on a broader government level. I do this by supporting the Citizens Climate Lobby and contributing to their efforts by such actions as making monthly phone calls to legislators. I also try to keep educated on many related areas of living that affect climate change. I want to be able to discuss some of the causes and cures to climate change in a caring, not lecturing way with others, especially those who may not see the world as I do. I have learned there is a way to measure my carbon footprint, where I consider my mark on this earth and my contribution to carbon emissions. Practices like flying on airplanes, driving a hybrid automobile, and what I throw away all contribute to my carbon footprint. Also, I've learned to consider what I take from the earth or buy at the store. How does the manufacturing of my purchases affect the environment? What about the food I eat and how it was produced? So I think about what I take from the earth and what I leave behind. Finally, I feel compelled to appreciate nature, which is easy for me to do, but I try to be more cognizant of it. I am grateful for my backyard, especially during COVID times. When I hike, I'm grateful for the trees, the caregiving to the trails, the wildflowers, and a smoke-free day. I'm happy to say my daughters also enjoy and appreciate our mountains, lakes, and mountain bike trails. I think it is important to pass on to our children our appreciation for the planet and knowledge of how precious it is, and that we have a responsibility to care for it. Through the Climate Action Team and Citizens Climate Lobby, I learned it is important to educate ourselves, to appreciate the natural world, and to take action, both in our personal and community lives, to protect the planet. I believe that our planet is a gift from God to us, and I want to cherish it, care for it, and make it last in its most beautiful form. I look at all the other planets that we know of in our solar system and marvel at how the Earth is so rich in oceans, trees, lands, and its ability to nourish life. How lucky are we to be beings on this planet? I love the Earth, and when you love something or someone, you take care of them. Let us take care of our Earth.
Thank you, Eileen. Let us take care of our earth, and in so doing, take care of one another, and take care of the interconnectedness of all things. In that wonderful reflection and beautiful story that preceded it, we are reminded that sometimes it's easy to get swept up and even overwhelmed by the big things, but there are always small ways, small forward steps that we can take. And one of those things that we practice each week together is generosity. That small step of giving of ourselves to the greater good, of supporting this fellowship and its self-sustaining ministries, and the work of our Plate Partner Citizens Climate Lobby. If you'd like to participate in our offering this morning, we invite you to go to our website at boiseuu.org and click Give in the top right corner of the screen and fill out the donor form. If you use the Sunday offering box, 25% of our unpledged plate offering will be shared with Citizens Climate Lobby at the end of the month. If you'd like your gift to be handled differently, please use the special contributions box and just make a note for us in the comments. When we give of ourselves, we are giving to our highest ideals, to our aspirations for a better world for all. We thank you in advance for your generosity. Our offering will now be received.
Our reading today is titled, How Lightly Might Earth Bear Humanity Forever, from This is the American Earth by Nancy Newhall. Shall we not learn from life, its laws, dynamics, balances, learn to base our needs not on death, destruction, and waste, but on renewal? In wisdom and in gentleness, learn to walk again with Eden's angels. Learn at last to shape a civilization in harmony with the earth. What, to continue their renewal, do air, water, life require of us?
Only that below the snows and glaciers of peaks, the alpine meadows and trees at timberline on precious slopes face storms and meltings undisturbed. And here, no mouse nor eagle, no wolf nor antelope, snake nor butterfly be hindered from its errand. Only that on lower spines and ridges, forests stand sentinel in the rains, and we take from them only their abundance.
Only that lakes lie cool and pure, and rivers brim their banks year long, running clear and stainless from spring to estuary. Only that grasslands wave deep, even under late summer suns, and field and orchard be so cared for that 1,000 years shall but increase their richness.
Only that we use water wisely to help life and be helped by it. Only that in cities air and light be clear, and enough leaves remain to shadow a living land.
Only that in each rise of land, each fall of water, each form of life, we sense its character, its function in the whole, love it, and learn its ways. And when we turn it to our use, plan with inspired skills to fit our habitation and our needs to it, to enhance, not to obliterate its beauty.
How little from the resources unrenewable by us cost the things of greatest value: wild beauty, peace, health, and love, music, and all testaments of spirit. How simple our basic needs: a little food, sun, air, water, shelter, warmth, and sleep.
How lightly might this earth bear us forever.
How lightly might this earth bear us forever. As the earth bears us, and we work that it might bear us lightly, we reach out to one another, to hold one another in times of sorrow and hardship, in times of joy and celebration. We take time to acknowledge the joys and sorrows among us, to grieve the losses that we might lift the burden for one another, and to share in our joys together, to remind ourselves that we are not alone on this journey of life. You are invited to share your joys and sorrows in the chat as we hear our music for reflection from UU harpist Susan Mashiyama. We hold the joys and sorrows of our beloved community. Alongside our silent prayers, we hold close to our hearts. Gathered up with the joys and sorrows of our nation and our world, we hold them all close, breathing them in and sending forth love.
Good morning. My name is Dennis Rockwood. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to share with all of you a few of my experiences and insights about nature, the climate crisis, our climate action team, and our community and its values. Like many of you, I have been drawn to the outdoors all my life and nature. For me, the place I feel most at rest and peace is Clay Log. It's on the Pacific Ocean, straight west of Seattle, over the Olympic Mountains. My guess is that we all have such a place that we carry within ourselves. It is there that I can watch the cycle of life renewed as the tide goes in and the tide goes out. When we listen to and observe the world around us, as we get a great sense of our place and our purpose. I am sure all of you have felt this feeling on issues besides climate. Along my 30-year journey in reading and learning about climate change, now referred to as the climate crisis, and observing climate events over the past 10 years, the question that I and others have been asked is, if we immediately stopped emitting greenhouse gases, would global warming stop? The answer to that question is not right away. The reason is that the Earth's surface temperature, as both the land and the water, do not react immediately. It takes time. The time lag is both the risk and our opportunity to slow the process down, slow the crisis down, and stop it. For me, Booth Climate Action Team has been my home within the Booth family. When facing any grave danger, like the climate crisis, connecting with others is both a must within the Booth community and within the community at large. The talent and passion of our climate action team and the support our climate action team receives from Booth, I believe, keeps us motivated to stay focused on the hard work that lies ahead for all of us. Our seventh principle, respect for the independent web of all existence, of which we are a part, binds us all. All of us know that it is the most vulnerable populations, both here in the United States and around the world, that are most at risk. There can be no climate justice without social economic justice. As we move forward together, finding answers and actions to the climate crisis, each of our 8 UU principles need our attention and action. The principles are tied together, centering us with the hope and inspiration to create a very powerful messages through our actions. The choices we make each day have impact. Keep safe, wear your mask, and vote.
Good morning. My name is Sharon Rockwood. I'm a daughter, a sister, a mother, wife, grandmother. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and now I'm a resident of Boise, Idaho, and I'm a member of Boise Unitarian Fellowship. I am also a member of Boise chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby, and I'm a voter. I'm the co-leader of the Climate Action Team at Booth. Each of us needs to consider our relationship to the environment and to the earth where we live. Perhaps we need to renew our sense of being part of the system in which we live. Not the power grid, the local water system, streets and highways, but the natural systems we depend on. The source of the electricity that flows through our homes, the source of the fresh drinking water that is at our disposal, the landscape that we occupy, along with other creatures of the earth. How do our actions and inactions impact the butterflies, the birds, the flow of the air, the fish? Well, you get the picture. The climate crisis. Some things in life are too big for us to handle on our own. I have felt that need for community and shared action for over 30 years. It began as I became aware of the deep injustice being done to Earth systems and the beings who depend on them. I think of it as the web of creation. The work before us is restoring environmental justice. Fortunately, I've found others, most more knowledgeable, to walk alongside. I'm partial to the picture of me standing with others, shoulder to shoulder, as we face the challenge of a sustainable future, perhaps holding the Booth banner. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg testified before the United States Congress in September of 2019, just a year ago. She said, "You must unite behind the science. You must take action. You must do the impossible, because giving up can never, ever be an option." That's the challenge, and that defines the work we have ahead of us. The climate crisis is daunting, and so I participate with others and take actions to influence public awareness and political decisions. The members of the Booth Climate Action Team plan opportunities for our fellowship to become more aware of environmental justice solutions and actions we can take to put them into practice. We encourage, inform, and stand together. I read recently that doomerism is the new denial. I take that statement to mean that we can choose to see only the steep hill ahead, or to see that each step we take is one more step toward our goal of an environmentally just and sustainable future. Remember Greta's comments a year ago: you must unite behind the science. You must take action. You must do the impossible, because giving up can never, ever be an option. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you both for your leadership and your hopefulness and your action on behalf of our fellowship, and inviting so many to journey with you. Doomerism, that's a word. I'd never heard of that term before until I read it in Sharon's reflection, but I certainly know what it feels like. These days, doomerism feels like it looms large, like a hovering storm cloud in every corner, ready to swallow us up. And I know how easy it would be to allow myself to get swallowed up, especially right now. Turning toward renewal, because we have to turn somewhere, and our spiritual themes are good places to start. I'm reminded that renewal is to make new, not merely to refresh whatever is currently not working, but to start again, sometimes from nothing. And sometimes it's like that knitting project where you have to rip out all the rows and start all over, and maybe even do entirely new stitches. Sometimes the bees have to go on strike. Sometimes we all have to imagine a whole new way of being, and sometimes that can feel impossible. In those moments of despair and in the searching for renewal, I return to the roots of our Unitarian Universalist theology that remind us that we are co-creators with the divine, however you experience the divine, of this holy place, this world right here, right now, bringing alive and making new the kingdom of heaven among us, the kingdom. Our religious and spiritual task lies before us in this life, not awaiting us in the next. So renewal comes from within all of us, sometimes in obvious ways, in leaders who inspire and encourage, who never give up. Sometimes renewal comes in each new moment, each small, seemingly imperceptible shift made by all of us in recognition of our interconnected web of all existence, of which we are a part. I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and love, God of many names and no name, Holy Mystery, we collectively hold the promise of the future in the palms of our hands, each one of us taking up the charge for our collective salvation. May we learn to shape a civilization in harmony with the earth. May we rage like the storms, rise like the tide, and shine like the sun to embrace this mighty task together, renewing this precious holy planet, renewing our vision for justice, equity, and compassion, renewing our promise of democracy again and again for as long as it takes, never giving up. With each new dawn, each turning season, each new year, may we choose hope, choose action, choose our interconnected web, choose each other, choose our children and our grandchildren and the generations yet to come. The world is ready, and so are we. In the name of all that is holy, we pray. Amen. I invite you to enjoy our closing music now. The song "The Tide is Rising" by Rabbi Shoshana Myra Friedman, written for the global climate strike.
The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The task is mighty, and so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. This land is holy, and so are we. This land is holy, and so are we. and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The sun is shining, and so are we. The sun is shining, and so are we. The sun is shining, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be.
Friends, I invite you to place your hands over your heart for our closing blessing. In this mighty task, let us move together, inviting, encouraging, holding one another as we point toward hope and get determined. May we always remember our collective voices rising up together. This is where we are called to be. Blessed are we all. Go in peace.